Anytime the innocence of a child is violated, it is absolutely devastating, and people should be held accountable for that. And that doesn't matter if it's at Chicago Public Schools or within a Catholic church. And that's something I think everybody can get behind, is the innocence of children should be absolutely maintained in every aspect. But an alarming report from the Illinois Attorney General after a 5-year investigation found that there were close to 2,000 victims over the span of 70 years, with more than 600 Catholic clergy spanned all across the state involved in alleged sexual assault of children. And obviously, when you hear about this, it's a big scandalous story and something that's on the top of a lot of people's minds. And Attorney General Kwame Raoul yesterday unpacking his report. And you can actually see the report in a lot of detail, including breaking down where exactly all of these incidents happen through the Attorney General's website. The report on Catholic clergy child sex abuse in Illinois for 2023. It's available at clergyreport.illinois, all spelled out, clergyreport.illinoisattorneygeneral.gov. And there you can see the executive summary. But then you can even go into the diocese themselves and look at, say, for instance, here in Springfield, you can click on that. Shows you all the counties that are involved for the Springfield Diocese, and then it gives you a variety of different other types of reporting, including the names of the abusers and the clerics, and all of the different narratives that there are, and how long the reported abuse took place, and how many reported survivors there are. So you can go through and check into all of that as well. So a lot to get to here. Let's go ahead and hear what Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul had to say yesterday during a news conference on a release of this report that, again, spans over a 5-year investigation looking at 70 years worth of data and interviewing hundreds of victims in this case. Here is Attorney General Kwame Raoul with an overview of what they found.
This report represents the state of Illinois' first comprehensive accounting of child sex abuse by members of the Catholic clergy in the 6 dioceses across Illinois, including the Diocese of Belleville, Joliet, Peoria, Rockford, Springfield, and the Archdiocese of Chicago. Throughout the investigation, we had 2 goals. First, to obtain and provide a full public accounting of substantiated child sex abuse committed by Catholic clergy within the state of Illinois. Second, to give survivors an opportunity to be heard, recognizing that some of these survivors have spent decades on their path to healing. Cooperation from the diocese aside, it was the survivors of child sex abuse who gave purpose and drive to this investigation. Absent their courage and willingness to come forward and discuss their experience, there would be no true investigative report. Over the course of this investigation, my office received more than 600 confidential contacts from survivors through emails, letters, in-person interviews, and phone calls. My investigation team prioritized treating each allegation with respect. They followed every lead that arose to ensure we conducted a thorough and comprehensive investigation. My team worked closely with survivors to record accounts of their experiences as children sexually abused by Catholic clerics. So I would like to express my sincere gratitude to each and every survivor, and to others who contacted my office for trusting us with their deeply personal experiences. Before this investigation, the Catholic Diocese of Illinois publicly listed only 103 substantiated child sex abusers, which substantiated meaning that available evidence supported the conclusion that cleric the cleric or religious brother committed child sex abuse. Now, by comparison, this report reveals the names and detailed information of 451 Catholic clerics and religious brothers who abuse at least 1,997 children across all of the dioceses in the state of Illinois. This means that our investigation led to the disclosure of 348 more clerics than prior to our investigation.
So again, that's Attorney General Kwame Raoul laying out some of the findings of their investigation released yesterday. It was started in 2018 by the former Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan, really hinging off, I believe, the Pennsylvania Attorney General at that time that had released a bombshell report about Catholic child sex abuse. And they intended to carry that through in Illinois. And again, some of the top line numbers here from 100,000 pages of documents and hundreds of interviews with victims. They were able to find nearly 2,000 children had been sexually abused by the Catholic clergy since 1950 in all 6 dioceses: Rockford, Joliet, Belleville, Springfield, Peoria, and Chicago. And that's after the Catholic Church in 2018 had publicly admitted 103 sex abusers, but the reports from Attorney General Kwame Raoul tax on another 451 total over the span of their investigation, finding that out. But then you have some questions and answers, including, could there possibly be more? Here's Thomas Verticchio with the Attorney General's office laying out a response to that question from reporters in Chicago yesterday.
We did far more than just obtain information from the diocese on religious orders. Our investigation would span, and did span, information available across the country so that we could, in fact, identify religious order clerics or brothers who ministered in Illinois and abused, and then approach the diocese about them. So that's one thing. Then the other is, and this is a specific recommendation in the report, we outline the best practices for the diocese to go forward regarding approaching religious orders, requiring that religious orders provide all this information, and that's one of the detailed recommendations. But your question about could there be more, there could be more. But this is a very, very fulsome, complete investigation.
But there were also questions about, were there any prosecutions in all of this? What kind of prosecutions could there be?
If there was any sort of doubt in with regards to the statute of limitations, if there was sort of uncertainty whether things were told or whatever it might have been, we would contact local prosecutors who would have the jurisdiction. Huh?
That was not done, correct? There was no.
No, whenever there was any doubt.
Oh, so you did.
Yeah, in those situations, yeah. That doesn't mean that, when I say that whenever there was any doubt, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a later assessment by those local prosecutors that the statute of limitations had indeed expired.
Do you know how many referrals?
Offhand, I don't have that information.
But none that you know of.
The question there was how many referrals did he make, and he didn't have a total off the top of his head there yesterday during the news conference. So a big report. Again, you can find out more and follow along at clergyreports.illinoisattorneygeneral.gov. clergyreport.illinoisattorneygeneral.gov. Coming back, we will hear the statement from Bishop Thomas John Paprocki out of Springfield, but of course, take your phone calls as they come in. Good morning, you're on WMAY. Real quick, please.
Good morning, Greg.
Hey.
I'm not sure, but I don't understand why they only half-ass prosecute these things, and they don't actually take a deep dive into why specifically does this continue to happen over all these decades in the Catholic Church by the same title of people. I think they need to open the books up on that. I don't want to use the word religion, but that's all I got right now. They need to open the books up on that right now and figure it out, because I honestly feel like it's a rite of passage for these people, and there's something wrong with that particular entity.
Well, we'll see what comes of all of this, and if there's a day of reckoning of sorts. But we'll hear what the Springfield Diocese has to say coming up next here on WMAY with Springfield's Morning. So we're talking about the Illinois Attorney General's clergy sex abuse report released yesterday that highlighted close to 2,000 victims of 400-plus clergy over the span of 70 years in all 6 Illinois dioceses across the state. And here in Springfield, Bishop Thomas John Paprocki released this statement, and I'll just read it verbatim. The Attorney General's inquiry into the history of clergy's sexual abuse of minors in the diocese has served as a reminder that some clergy in the church committed shameful and disgraceful sins against innocent victim survivors and did damage that simply cannot be undone. As bishop of the diocese, I cannot undo the damage of the past, but I've been and continue to be fully committed to ensuring we do all we can to prevent abuse from happening again. The changes our diocese enacted have proven to be effective, as we are not aware of a single incident of sexual abuse of a minor by clergy alleged to have occurred in the diocese in nearly 20 years. As difficult as this process has been for all involved, especially the victim survivors, we credit the Attorney General's office for bringing about greater transparency and especially for keeping the spotlight on this issue to help us sustain the vigilance with which we guard against any future threat of abuse. We hope the Attorney General's office continues this vigilance for creating safer environments within our institution, and it doesn't stop with just the Catholic Church. We stand with the other 5 dioceses in Illinois in the commitments to accountability, transparency, reform, and sustained vigilance. Like the other 5 dioceses, we report all allegations to civil authorities and encourage victim survivors to do the same, and we have a victim assistance ministry and special offices to handle childhood sexual abuse allegations. Bishop Thomas John Paprocki continues in his statement, our review board includes lay professionals with backgrounds in areas such as law enforcement, education, psychology, and medicine. They review and make recommendations to me, Bishop Thomas John Paprocki, regarding the withdrawal of clergy. We also conduct robust, safe environment abuse prevention programs, which includes background checks for everyone who works and volunteers with the church. We have also listed all substantiated claims of sexual abuse of a minor by clergy in the diocese on their own website, dio.org/promise. Bishop Thomas John Paprocki finishes up his statement here. The diocese, our diocese, he says, in Springfield has a victim assistance coordination ready to help anyone who's been victimized. And he says he pledges to support victim survivors in any way that he can, as to sustain vigilance and take all the appropriate measures to prevent any future recurrences. So that's the statement from Bishop Thomas John Paprocki here in the Springfield Diocese. After that report came out from the Illinois Attorney General highlighting nearly 7 decades worth of allegations found credible of child sex abuse against minors conducted by the Catholic clergy. So there's that story. Something, obviously a lot of victims are going to have a little bit of closure, but I don't think that you're ever really going to have closure from such a devastating incident that really just damages trust entirely.